Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar. My name's Lauren, I'm with TheraPlay, and we have Laurie from the Children's Therapy Center and Diane from the ARC of Northern Virginia with us today. Thank you so much for joining. Want to do a quick intro with our speakers. Laurie is an occupational therapist, like I said, at the Children's Therapy Center. She's a Fairfax, Virginia native who graduated from Elizabethtown College in 2018 with a master's in occupational therapy. Laurie completed her fieldworks at Fleming Therapy Services, which is one of our sister companies, and Lancaster Rehabilitation Hospital. And following graduation, she returned to the Northern Virginia area and began working as a pediatric occupational therapist at CTC. She now serves as the OT coordinator there in our Springfield office. During her time at the Children's Therapy Center, Laurie has developed clinical interest in sensory processing, feeding, and neurological conditions. Next, we have Diane. She's a transition manager at the ARC of Northern Virginia. Diane has worked with people with developmental and intellectual disabilities for over 20 years in a variety of capacities, including day support services, residential settings, and supported employment. She's been with the ARC for over 15 years. She first joined the organization as director of the Personal Support Network in 2001. When she left to stay home with her 3 daughters, she continued to organize the ARC of Northern Virginia's Patriots Cup Corporate Challenge every year. Diane returned in February 2012 and now serves as transition manager, implementing the transition services and overseeing the transition points, providing opportunities, information, networking, and transition support program. Diane holds master's degrees in social work and public administration from the University of Pittsburgh. So we thank them both very much for joining us, and I am now going to turn it over to Laurie.
Awesome. So we're going to be talking about executive functioning today, which is the key part of what pediatric occupational therapists and speech therapists work with. So these are the main 6 key dimensions that we sorry, I'm getting my webcam back up.
Wrong one.
There we go. So the 6 key dimensions of executive functioning. The first one is initiating a task, so getting your child to begin the first step, whether it's their morning routine or something in their homework or anything like that. The next is response inhibition or impulse control. The third one is working memory or mental tracking. Also cognitive flexibility or shifting attention, planning, organizing, and problem solving throughout daily routines, and metacognition. We're going to dive into each of those a little bit more here on the next slide. So like I said, initiation is the child beginning an activity without any procrastination, and having them generate the ideas as well. So whether it's in the morning routine and having them initiate, I need to go get dressed, I need to brush my teeth, I need to do anything else that's part of the routine, eat breakfast, anything like that. Getting them to initiate that without any parent cues, any assistance for that. Or getting them to, when they get home from school, put their backpack in the right place, initiating doing that task, any tasks throughout their daily routines, having them initiate that on their own. The next one, like we said before, was inhibition of impulses or response inhibition and impulse control. So that refers to one's ability to stop their behavior at the appropriate time. So response inhibition would be referring to if one of your children is talking and they need to maybe stop talking at the appropriate moment for the other person to engage in the conversation, or when they're listening to directions, listening to the full directions from either a therapist or a teacher or a parent before they start talking. That would be the response inhibition, for them to control their voice and know when the appropriate time to talk is and when it's not appropriate. And then same with impulse control, controlling more of their actions instead of their words, controlling their body movements and all of that. The next key dimension that we listed was working memory, which refers to the ability to remember all the information needed to complete a task. So that can be either verbal directions or written directions. So whether your child is doing a baking activity and they have a recipe and they're trying to remember multiple steps without looking at the recipe, that could be an example of working memory. Or whether it's their morning routine, if you tell your child to brush their teeth, get dressed, and get their shoes on, that would be 3 steps that they would have to remember and recall to complete the full task. That can be in a multi-step project as well. If they're doing a project for school and there's multiple steps to it and the teacher gives directions, color this orange, color this blue, and then cut it out. That would be the same thing, completing all 3 of those directions and recalling them independently on their own. The next dimension was cognitive flexibility and shifting attention, which refers to the ability to transition and change plans. So that really is some of our kiddos, if they have deficits with cognitive flexibility or with that attention, if a routine changes, if you tell your kid in the morning that you're gonna go to lunch at McDonald's or something, and then plans change and you're not able to do that, is the kiddo able to be flexible with that change in plans? Does it cause a meltdown? Anything like that. The next dimension was planning, organizing, and problem solving. And that one refers to anticipating future events, setting goals, developing steps, and grasping the main ideas. So this one kind of is a big one over all of our daily routines. So whether it's a homework project and they have to plan out multiple steps, if it's a longer term project, a timeline to complete it, how they're going to get all their materials organized, how they're going to keep all of the steps organized, whether it's a checklist or whatever it might be. Problem solving, like if they come up with plan A and plan A doesn't work, can they come up with plan B? Can they have that flexibility to change to plan B, even if they've thought of it on their own? So all of those skills, whether it is routines in the day or homework or school projects. And the last one is metacognition, which is referred to as understanding your own strengths and weaknesses. And that really refers to one's ability to regulate their own thinking. So whether they're aware of whether they have difficulty remembering somebody's name in a social situation would be a good example of that, metacognition. In our next slide, we have some attention components. There's a lot of different attention that is included in executive functioning. And so these are the main ones here. So alertness, selective attention, sustained attention, mental tracking or working memory, like we said before, shifting or altering attention, divided attention or multitasking, and time management. And we're going to dive into each of these a little bit more on the next slide. So the first one, that alertness, is the child's ability to focus and maintain self-control. So really being alert to the task at hand, whatever that might be in their daily routine. Selective attention refers to the ability to filter irrelevant information from the information that they need to react to in the moment. So an example of that might be if they're sitting and doing a homework assignment and there's maybe like a fire truck going by, or there's parents having a conversation in another room, are they able to tune out that irrelevant information to complete the homework task that is in front of them? Really being selective to the task that they are doing and to the input that they are receiving to complete the task that they need to do. The next one is sustained attention, which is referred to as the ability to continue working on a task until it is fully completed. So this could be really anything with our little kiddos. It could be sustained attention to playing with a game, whether it be a puzzle, completing a puzzle before we go and do something else, or completing a board game before we go do something else, completing a homework assignment before we go do something else. Really anything that's in their daily routine, completing any task until it is at full completion. And next one was mental tracking or working memory, like we mentioned before. That is referred to as holding on to the relevant information to sustain participation in the conversation or a task. So like we said before, remembering all of the components of the conversation, if it's that, remembering what has been talked about before in the conversation, remembering any questions that have been asked, responding to those at the appropriate time, again with that response inhibition, monitoring their behavior to respond at the appropriate time. Or in a task, really remembering the information that has been relevant to the task and maybe disregarding the information that was a little bit more irrelevant. Again, like that, maybe extra auditory input or extra visual input if there's maybe cars driving by in sight, anything like that. Shifting or altering attention is really, again, with that cognitive flexibility. So an example of this is if your child is working on a coloring page and you go to ask them a question, can they shift their attention from that coloring that they're doing to answering your question? Or do you have to repeat maybe their name multiple times or give them a little gestural cue or tactile cue on their arm to get them to respond to your question? So are they able to shift their attention between what they're doing and what something else is that they're asked to be doing? Then divided attention or multitasking is just doing two activities at once. So it could be whether they're completing a craft while maybe their parents ask them a question. That would be that divided attention or that multitasking, engaging in the conversation while continuing to work purposely and intentionally at the task that's at hand. And the last one there is time management, which is referring to understanding how long it will take to complete a task. And that's kind of a big one for a lot of kids with the school projects and multi-step activities. Is this going to take me 5 minutes to get done and then I can go play, or is this going to take me like an hour? Do I need multiple days, especially for maybe kiddos in high school? Really planning that out, planning around their schedules and when they're available to work on that project. So our next slide is going to give us some concerns that might indicate challenges with executive functioning. So these are just some of them. Poor organizational skills is a definite concern for executive functioning deficits. So whether it's their desk at school, if they're not able to find their pencils or they're not able to find scissors or crayons, something that's used really routinely, making sure that all of their stuff is organized. Even in their backpack when they bring something home from school, are they keeping it organized so that they can find it and give it to their parents when they get home, if it's maybe like a paper that the parents need to sign or see. Even their bedroom at home, if they're a little older, are they able to organize that? Are they able to keep their closet clean? Are they able to put shoes where they should go? Are they able to put their bed back together? All of that organization aspect from school to home, and everything in between. Another concern would be if your child misses important details in a task. So maybe if it's a bigger project and they miss a little part of it, that would be a concern for executive functioning challenges. Another one would be poor time management or losing track within the task. So like we said before, that sustained attention to complete an activity until it is fully done. If they lost track within that, that could be a concern for executive functioning, or that poor time management, like I said, if they are having trouble planning out a project, maybe that's multi-weeks at school, are they able to plan that out so that accordingly it is done and not all waited until the very last minute to get accomplished? Another concern indicating executive functioning challenges would be deficits with cognitive flexibility. Like we said, if they were told that they were going to go to McDonald's for lunch and plans change and they can't go there anymore, are they able to be flexible and stay regulated with that change, or would it result in a meltdown? And if they are resulting in meltdowns, changes in daily routines, that isn't indicative of an executive functioning challenge. The same for an example at school, maybe if they have a sub instead of their regular teacher and they don't find out until they're at school that day, are they able to be flexible with that change, or does that cause upsetness or a meltdown? So any of that would be indicating an executive functioning challenge. Also, poor working memory. So again, are they able to follow all the steps that you give them that are age appropriate to complete a task? So we say generally like 3 to 4 year olds should follow 2 to 3 step directions, whether it's verbally or written, and then 4 to 5 year olds should be able to do 3 step directions. So an example of that might be a parent telling a child to pick up their cup from the table, go into the kitchen, and then place it in the sink. Are they able to follow all 3 steps of that direction without asking for assistance to recall what they were? Were they able to recall it all on their own? And then a 5 to 6 year old should be able to follow those 3 step directions, but also in a group setting. So are they able to follow that in kindergarten? Are they able to follow it if they have circle time with other kids around, with other auditory distractions, other visual distractions? Are they still able to recall those directions and complete them according to what was planned by the teacher or the adult? And then lastly, poor problem solving skills. Are they able to come up with a plan B if plan A doesn't work out? Are they able to have that flexibility to do plan A, even if they thought of it if plan B if plan A didn't work out? So anything like that with that problem solving would be indicative of executive functioning challenges. Some more on the next slide are poor self-regulation skills. Again, with that flexibility, are they able to stay self-regulated, or does it result in a meltdown? Are they able to cope through maybe an activity that might be a little more challenging and maybe cause a little bit of frustration? Are they able to still then become self-regulated after any frustration that occurs with a challenging task? Are they able to persist through that challenging task? Another concern would be if the child is overwhelmed, again, with maybe a task that is a little larger, are they able to break it down into little components in order to complete it, or do they become overwhelmed and possibly have a meltdown because it is such a large project? Again, lack of persistence to complete a task or a goal. Maybe they have set out a goal or set out a task, but are they able to really plan and push through and get to completion of that activity? Like we said before, if they over-focus on the details of the task and lose the big picture. So they might be doing all the little things that you ask them to do, but are they fully completing the big project that was planned? And then short attention span and difficulty with sustaining attention. I mentioned this a little bit before, but are they able to do that shifting attention? If they're doing one thing and you ask them a question, are they able to shift that attention to you to answer your question and then shift their attention back to the activity at hand? Or are they able to sustain that attention to complete the puzzle or the game or the writing assignment, whatever it might be, or even eating? Are they able to attend to that eating until it's completed? Attending to the mealtime, attending to sitting at the table for all of dinner or all of lunch, whatever it might be. Are they able to do that divided attention where they're multitasking? If the child's a little bit older, are they able to have a conversation with you while they're working on a project that's been assigned to them? And then the last concern here that we have indicating executive functioning challenges would be difficulties with understanding the perspective of another person or difficulties with having empathy towards somebody else. And then on our next slide, so if you have any concerns with any of those listed, I would recommend considering an evaluation for occupational or speech therapy. And depending on the red flags that are identified, it would be either an OT or a SLP that would do the evaluation. We're going to go into that a little bit here on the next slide. So if you have these concerns, you would want to seek a speech therapy evaluation. So these would be if a child begins a task without listening to all of the directions. So again, that would go back to that response inhibition. Are they able to regulate their own behavior to know that the therapist or the adult, the teacher, needs to finish all of their directions before the child starts talking or before the child starts reaching for items on the table or beginning the task? Another one would be that they only follow part of the direction giving, so a part of the directions that were given. So again, that working memory, are they able to recall all of those and complete them as told, or are they able to be flexible and complete them as told? And then also poor conversation skills and poor reading comprehension skills would be written to refer to a speech therapist for an evaluation.
And Lauren, we do have one question.
Okay.
Would you say that ADHD and executive functioning go hand in hand?
Yes, they are very common to be related. And again, with the ADHD, difficulties with that sustained attention might cause more difficulties with the executive functioning skills, being able to attend to the task, being able to focus on the speaker, to be able to then recall all the information that has been told to them, to be able to complete a task. So they definitely do go hand in hand.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. And then our next slide here is going to tell us about when to seek an OT evaluation versus a speech therapy evaluation. So when to seek an occupational therapy evaluation, examples of this would be the parents complain that they cannot get their child to complete their morning routine in time. So say you give them tasks of eating breakfast, getting dressed, brushing their teeth, and then getting their shoes and backpack before going to school. And they have maybe 30-45 minutes to do that, and it's taking them an hour and a half, 2 hours to do all of that. That would be a concern, indicating an OT evaluation. Are they having trouble with the initiation of each task? Are they having trouble with the recall to remember all the steps? Are they having trouble with the time management? Kind of exploring where those deficits might be. The next item that would seek an OT evaluation would be homework routines taking hours with maybe more arguing and tears than maybe a different assignment. So that would be, again, with that frustration, are they able to persist through a frustrating task while maintaining that regulation? And also, are they able to break down, if a homework assignment is really large, are they able to break it down into those little chunks to plan out the steps that they need to do? Are they able to make a list of items that they need to complete it, all the organization, time management, planning, problem solving? If maybe plan A doesn't work out, are they able to do plan B in their homework? Are they able to attend to sitting at the table to do their homework for that long, or do they need some strategies to help with that attention at the table? The next item would be that a child does not bring home materials that they need to complete a homework task. And I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but are they bringing home everything in their backpack that needs to be brought home? Are they planning out at school before they leave for the day? I need this, this, and this to complete this homework task. Are they bringing stuff home? And then also when it is home, are they remembering to complete it, or are they remembering to give it to their parent if that is something that needs to be given to them? And then the last one, the child is overwhelmed by environments causing anxiety to participate. So are they able to transition to a new environment? Again, maybe with a sub at school instead of a teacher. Does that cause anxiety, and are they able to regulate and participate, or is that difficult for them? So that would be another sign for an OT evaluation. Next slide is going to give us some info on the intervention process. And this is going to be for both speech language pathology and occupational therapy. So for both of them, the intervention would include 3 primary goals, and that would be to build the executive functioning skills, to provide an environment to build those skills, and to develop strategies and routines that foster success for the child. So going into that a little bit more on the next slide.
And
Building executive.
we did have another question.
Yeah.
Would you recommend some strategies for kids struggling now with virtual learning?
Yeah. So definitely setting up the right environment for them, making sure that the table and chair is the right environment for them, making sure that they have good posture at the table. So finding maybe a surface that fits them a little bit better. So you want them to have 90-90-90 posture is what we call it. So their knees bent, their hips bent, and really sitting upright and tall to be able to best support their learning at that table, at that environment that they're in. So one, making sure that the environment is set up appropriately. And then 2, giving them any strategies that they might need to attend to it, whether it be a fidget or something that they can do with their hands, maybe even with their feet while they're focusing on the computer screen, on the breaks that school has, having them do maybe some movement activities, get up and move around a little bit, and then come back. Setting timers for the breaks is also a good strategy if your child needs that extra visual cue to come back to the table after their break's done. Any of those would be really good strategies for virtual learning. No, it's a new change for everyone.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, and then building executive functioning skills. So both OTs and speech therapists will develop an individualized intervention plan to address the deficits that are identified in that evaluation. So they are definitely both making it specific to the child, specific goals that really, again, focus on that child's environment at home and at school that fits them, and also the specific skills that they need to work on. As we said earlier, there's so many dimensions of executive functioning, so which one is the individual child struggling with, and then what deficits do that cause? Does it impact morning routine? Does it impact school? Really making the goals that are specific to the child's environment and the child's functional concerns. And then intervention as well, building the executive skills also teaches the child to label their behavior and to select an appropriate tool to self-regulate and again meet those environmental demands, especially a big one now for virtual learning. So these are some of the interventions that OTs and speech language pathologists use for executive functioning. The ALERT program is a program that focuses on the really regulation state of your body, how fast your child's body is moving. So they use terminology with too low, too high, and just right, and really getting your child to be in that just right zone to be able to best participate in whatever task is at hand. The zones of regulation program is another big one that helps kiddos identify their emotional regulation and then also explores tools that they can use for self-regulating to be able to best participate in the activities that are required of them. So it goes through different zones. It goes through blue, green, yellow, and red, really identifying, are they tired? Are they sick? Are they angry? Are they frustrated? Are they just right? Are they ready to learn, focused, really exploring all of that. And then if they are a little bit frustrated or a little bit tired or a little bit excited, maybe a little too excited, how can we get them to come back to a just right, ready state, ready to focus and learn? So that one is a great one that we use a lot. The next one is the Incredible Flexible You, a social thinking curriculum. And that one kind of goes hand in hand with that SuperFlex one that's listed there. And really looking at that cognitive flexibility. So the SuperFlex has a bunch of different superheroes and it explores one for cognitive flexibility. His name is Rex Flexinator, teaching the kid that really that cognitive flexibility helps us to be able to participate in a lot of activities, both with other peers and at home and at school. They also have one for that response inhibition that we were talking about, knowing when the appropriate time to talk is, when it's maybe not an appropriate time to talk. They also have one for body awareness and bubble space. Maybe if your child gets a little too close to another peer and isn't necessarily aware of it, there's a superhero for that too. So it goes through a bunch of different executive functioning skills and has superheroes that are a really fun way to teach your child those executive functioning skills. The social behavior mapping of expected and unexpected behavior is another one that we do a lot. Really just identifying if a child's behavior is expected or unexpected, starting with maybe the therapist identifying that for the child, progressing to the child being able to identify that on their own, and then be able to regulate their actions and change according to whatever category they listed it in. And then whole body listening, that last one there is another one we use a lot. That is a really great way for your kiddo to be more attentive to the directions that are being told to them. So this goes through all the different parts of the body, talks about your eyes being on the speaker, your ears being open and listening, your mouth being quiet, your hands being nice and still, your body facing the speaker. So really going through a bunch of that about how your child's body should be when they're listening to directions to best be able to recall those directions and complete the task a little bit later on. So
And Lori, we have a question about what age group are these appropriate to use with?
Yeah, so they're varied. The zones of regulation I generally use with kiddos a little bit older, typically like 6 and older. But some of the other ones, the alert program, I sometimes use with a little bit younger. Superflex I use with a little bit younger all the way up. They're kind of a whole spectrum. Whole body listening is a great one for younger kids because there's pictures that go along with it. And then it's really good for middle school age kids too. So it's a really wide spectrum.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. And then, like I said earlier, you really want to provide the environment to build the skills. So both the OTs and the speech therapists will work with the children and the family to develop ways to redesign the environment for success. So especially now for virtual learning, how can they set up that home environment for the child to have the most success and do the best that they can in that environment? And the goal is to eventually learn how to independently manage the tasks and demands. So not keeping these children in occupational therapy or speech therapy forever, but giving them the skills that they can then and strategies that they can then implement at home in their environments, and then transferring those skills and strategies over to different environments, whether it be going from virtual learning back to school or from one classroom to another classroom, being able to generalize those strategies. So these are some examples of some more strategies. So for poor time management, a great one is to promote the use of external reminders. So for example, for younger kiddos, picture schedules are really great, whether it be a visual schedule with Velcro, and they can take the items off after they've been completed, whether they're putting them in a box when they've been completed, having like an all done box with the toys. Once one is completed, I put it back in this box and I focus on the next one that's been brought out, really helping on that attention, that sustained attention to the task that is at hand. Timers, I think I mentioned this earlier, are another great strategy. If your child needs a little bit of maybe a sensory break or any kind of break, having a timer, and especially a visual timer that they can see and hear, is a great way to do it. So set the timer for maybe a 2-minute break, have your kiddo go take the break, and then when the timer comes off, it's a sign that they have to be back at the activity that is at hand. Daily homework planning worksheets and verbal prompting are also great strategies for those younger kiddos. Then for teens, maybe those that are up in middle school and high school, the use of checklists is a really great strategy. So if they have maybe 7 things to do at night for homework before school the next day, having them write down maybe when they get home from school a checklist of I need to do this, this, and this, and that gives them that extra visual cue so that at the end of the night they can, as they're doing it, check off every item that they've done, and then at the end of the night see, oh, I've checked off everything, I'm good to go. Really gets that working memory, helps that if that is a challenge. Schedules, like we said, for those younger kiddos, you can do different types of schedules for those older kiddos. Maybe it's a planner and writing out at 8 a.m. I'm going to this class, 9 a.m. I'm going to this class, to give them that extra help with that recall of maybe they're having difficulties recalling their school schedule or anything like that. Timers are another great strategy for those older kiddos. They can even set them on their phone if they have one, or their computer if they have one, again, as maybe a break, or I'm gonna do this activity for 10 minutes and then I need to move on if I have a lot to do. I'm really working on that time management. So say you have like 7 homework assignments, you can't spend 5 hours on one and then have like 1 hour for all the other ones. So really setting those timers and saying I need to be done with this at this time to best promote my independence with accomplishing everything I need to during that day. Then there's also a ton of apps for planning and organization on phones, so many different options. And then writing webs are also a great strategy for that time management. And lastly, I think I have some strategies for attention.
Oh, Laurie, I'm sorry, we have another question.
Oh,
For a child with executive functioning and ADHD, how often would you recommend a break during distance learning?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. For a child with executive functioning and challenges and ADHD, how often would you recommend breaks during distance learning?
Yeah, I think it depends how long the school day is as well. So if it's a 3-hour school day, it also depends on the where your kiddo's at. So each kiddo would be different. So it's kind of a difficult question to answer because it's really individualized to each kiddo. But kind of looking at the whole day and then breaking that apart, whether it's a 3-hour school day or a 6-hour school day. I know they're all different right now. But when they do get a break, setting a consistent break time would be good. So after you've chosen the time for the break to occur, setting consistently, like you get a 5-minute break or you get another 5-minute break later. I know lunch would be a little bit longer, but having those other breaks be a little more consistent would definitely support the child a little bit better. But depending on where the kid is at and what age they are, I would say different times for each kid.
Thanks.
Yep. And then these are some strategies to best support attention for your kiddos. So a sensory diet could be given by an occupational therapist to assess the best level of regulation for focus. So again, whether that's giving them a fidget or something to play with their feet, any other sensory strategies that we have that would help them to be able to attend to sitting at that table for a longer period of time. Repetition, so repeating the directions, if that's something your kiddo needs. Requesting confirmation. So after you've given maybe 3 verbal directions, check in with your kiddo, make sure that they heard you, that they know what they're doing, to make sure that they were listening. You can use that whole body listening. That's a great strategy for that. Restating in their own words is also a good one. So you can do that confirmation, asking them if they understood, or you could ask them to repeat all 3 steps back to you. And that's a great way to further improve that recall and having them say it out loud and hear it a second time. Using self-talk to self-focus on the speaker, self-questioning, and visual cue cards to prompt focus on what they're attending to are also really great strategies. I think that's everything I have.
All right, thank you so much, Laurie. We're gonna switch it over to Diane right now. And everyone, as you think of questions, you can either send them in the question box or you can ask them at the end and we'll keep reading them out loud. So take it away, Diane.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with the ARC of Northern Virginia, but basically we exist to promote and protect the human rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we support their full inclusion in society. So if you can go to the next slide, we were founded in 1962 by parents, and there are 23 ARCs across the state of Virginia and then over 730 across the country. And we're affiliated with the ARC of the United States and the ARC of Virginia. And each ARC is a little bit different. Our ARC, so we're of Northern Virginia, like I said, and we serve Arlington and Fairfax counties and the city of Falls Church and Alexandria. And like I said, each ARC is a little bit different. Our ARC is primarily an information and education ARC. So we do a lot of workshops and webinars for families and offer a lot of different resources. And we do offer some services, and I'm going to go through what those are so that you can, if you're unfamiliar with us, you can go to our website because we have a lot of information there. So if you can go to the next slide. So like I said, we primarily educate and empower individuals and families. So we get over 5,000 information and referral requests a year. We have a really robust website, and the website is there. We have a resource library on our website that offers a ton of one-page fact sheets on everything from applying for Social Security to looking for residential services and housing resources to looking for special ed attorney or special ed advocates or attorneys. Just Medicaid waivers is a big one. Lots of information. We also have a provider directory available on our website. So if you are looking for therapists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, attorneys, camps, summer programs, things like that, dentists, that is a place that you might find resources in the community. We also offer an information and referral portal. So right now, as is everything, we are virtual and all working remotely from home. So the best way to get in touch with us is through the INR portal. So if you have a question, you can just go to the front page of our website and type in your question, and you'll immediately get information back. Our Director of Advocacy, Lucy Bagnell, oversees that INR portal, and she'll answer your question very quickly. We also do Facebook Live chats for information. We do Trust Talk Tuesdays and First Fridays. The first Friday of every month, we do a webinar, and you can see the schedule of what all those information topics are for throughout the year. We also offer Trust Talk Tuesdays, and I'm going to go into a little bit about what trusts are, and I'll explain that in a minute. We also have a really great YouTube channel, and the link is there on the slide. So we do a lot of 3-minute webinars and then full-length webinars. The 3-minute webinars are obviously 3 minutes long, and they provide information. Maybe you want to learn just a little bit more about Medicaid waivers because you've heard about them, but you don't know too much about it. Or you want to know a little bit about special needs trust. You've heard it, but you just want to understand it a little bit more. So they're really quick webinars just to kind of get a little taste of information. And then all of the workshops and webinars that we do are recorded and archived on that channel. So we have tons of webinars on applying for Social Security, Medicaid waivers, special needs trust, supported decision-making, just a variety of different topics. Then we also have a resources e-newsletter that goes out every other week. You can subscribe to that on the very front page of our website. And then our Transition Point program, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in our transition series, which is coming up just in a few weeks. So I'll talk a little bit about that next. You could go to the next slide. So Transition Points, that's our overarching program for the ARC, and that stands for Providing Opportunities, Information, Networking, and Transition Support. So what we did a few years ago was look at what are the important points, critical points where you have to make decisions for your loved one with a disability. And we thought that those points were early intervention, special education, transitioning out of high school to adult services, then going into employment or meaningful day support services, finding home, and then finally aging with a disability. So for each of those points, we created those guides. They're written guides that if we were in our office, I would, and with this was a live webinar, I would hand you all the guides, but they're all downloadable from our website. And each guide offers a lot of information around kind of that critical decision life point. And it provides information that's not only applicable just to our local area, but just kind of overall planning purposes. So providing checklists and things to think about, but then also lots of information and contact information for local community resources. We received a grant a few years ago from the Virginia Board for People with Disabilities, and all of our resource guides have been translated into Arabic, Chinese, Korean, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And those are also all available to download from our website. So we do offer a few direct services. So one service that we offer is support coordination for services for people who have a developmental disabilities waiver. We serve about 130 people providing support coordinator services. We also have a grant with the Virginia Department of Aging and Rehab Services where we serve as guardian of last resort for about 50 individuals. This program serves people who have absolutely no one else in their life to provide support for them or provide guardianship services. The other service that we offer is our Special Needs Trust program. So if you are planning for the future of your child with a disability, you want to, as part of your kind of overall financial future planning, you want to put any money that you want to save for your child into a special needs trust. That will maintain their eligibility for public benefits like Social Security, like Medicaid waivers. So lots of times people open up a special needs trust and leave it unfunded until maybe a life insurance policy can go in there, or an inheritance from maybe a grandparent, but it's part of your kind of overall estate planning. To learn more about special needs trusts, we offer Trust Talk Tuesdays, which is every other Tuesday. You sign up online, and like I said, everything is virtual at the moment. But you participate just it's a small group. The maximum is maybe 5 families and our Director of Special Needs Trust. And you can learn more about it and just get information and ask any questions that you have. We serve with our Special Needs Trust anyone in Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. The other big part of what we do is advocacy. So we advocate at the local level. So that means educating people with disabilities and their families about what's going on in the community and how to get involved. We also educate local legislators and officials. And actually, the virtual format has really been helpful for us this season. Our Director of Advocacy has been meeting with families and legislators over the past several weeks for families to kind of share their stories and talk about the challenges that they're facing. And we've been doing tons of Zoom calls with legislators and an individual family, and it's been going really well. We also are aware of what's going on in the county. We arrange for families to come speak at budget hearings when county budgets are ready to come out, to make sure that critical supports and services continue to be funded. And then the next slide. And then also advocating at the state level. So if you were, just to give you a little information about why it's so important to advocate, Virginia ranks 39th in the nation for providing community supports and services. So it's really important that we continue educating legislators about what the supports and what the needs are. So like I said before, we do home visits with legislators. We do town halls and budget hearings. We also in January do a DD Advocacy Day where in the past, I don't know what it's going to look like this year, but we organize a bus of families and individuals with disabilities to go down to Richmond for the day and meet with legislators. And the next slide. Then the other advocacy we do is educating people with disabilities about the need for self-advocacy. So we offer 2 groups. I facilitate a People First for Young Adults group for young people generally between the ages of 16 and 26, so that transition age, getting ready to be out of high school and then recently out of high school and maybe working or going to school, post-secondary option. And we meet at the moment virtually the second Tuesday of every month from 6:30 to 8. And so what I do is lots of times invite outside presenters to come in to talk about services, but we just finished a curriculum that we had volunteers from Toastmasters, which is a public speaking group, come and work with the youth on developing their own speech and getting more comfortable kind of talking in front of a group and presenting a speech. They did fantastic. We also have a People First Ally group, which is a life like yours, and they also do a similar kind of thing around advocacy. We also offer some travel training and transportation support. So every March, typically, we offer Wings for All. So in partnership with Dulles Airport and TSA. So if you have a child or maybe you're thinking about wanting to take a plane trip and you're concerned if your child is going to be able to navigate the airport and if you're concerned about the overload of sensory stimulation, families and young people get to come to the airport and they actually check their bag and they go through security and they get on the plane. It doesn't go anywhere, but they get to see what that whole process is like. And we have lots of families that have done this every year until they get comfortable to actually buy a plane ticket. We also have a Tech for Independent Living program. We have a team of people who created different apps in particular TravelMate and EmployMate, which are both available now, that help. It's kind of like a virtual travel trainer in your pocket, a virtual job coach in your pocket, to help you be more independent, whether it's at work or taking public transportation. And again, these last two programs, again, because we're all remote at the moment, we typically, though, do Metro comes to the ARC 2 times a year, where if you want to sign up for reduced fare passes and also sign up for Metro Access, you can do that at our office. And then similar kind of program with DMV Connect if you want a new ID. That's something that we also offer at our office 2 times a year at least.
And Diane, we did have a question.
Sure.
Are these services offered for free to families, or do they pay for the services they're interested in?
No, all of our services are free. The only service that you have to pay for is the Special Needs Trust program, which obviously you have to pay to open up the trust. But
Right.
Other than that, it's free. This year, oh, you know what? I did want to mention the only other cost is I didn't go too much into our transition series, but I do want to mention that as part of our Transition Points program, we do a transition series every fall. Again, it's virtual. It's one day in September, one day in October, and this year you have to pay for that just for us to be able to mail you. It just pays for the cost of the materials and the mailing. But it's 2 full days from 9 to 2. We offer breaks in between of workshops around transition issues. So it'll issues around employment service organizations, post-secondary options, DARS, Medicaid waivers, supported decision-making, that kind of thing. So if you are interested in that, you can visit our website and sign up for that. That's coming up September 26th and October 17th.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I got a little bit more into than your question, but I didn't want to forget to mention the transition series.
No, that's perfect.
And then next slide, and that is it, I believe. Does anybody have any other questions?
We actually did have one more question. Does the ARC help with job placements? I know you mentioned the apps, but does the ARC itself help with placements?
No, we don't. We don't provide job support services. One of our guides is about employment. It's green and it's entering the world of work and also meaningful day support. So in that guide, again, you can download it from our website. It lists in there all of the employment service organizations in our area, what kind of services they provide, and how to get connected with them.
Awesome. And then we do have another question regarding the Special Needs Trust. Does the ARC put it together, or do you connect families with a lawyer that does the trust?
No, we actually, we partner with Key Private Bank, and we actually set up the trust. The money is kept at Key Private Bank, but we administer it. So once it's actually, so we set it up, and then once your loved one is actually using it, all the requests for disbursements come through us. And when you open up a special needs trust, you do with that a letter of intent, and that helps us work with your loved one to figure out how you want the money to be spent, you know, what you want it spent on.
And then we have a follow-up question, which what is the cost to set the trust up?
Actually, $1,050 to open up the trust. If you have 2 children with disabilities, you get the second trust at half off. And there is a management fee per year that I don't know the exact number of. But if you are interested, you can email me after, and I'll connect you with the right person to get the exact cost.
Great. Any other questions from any of our attendees for either Laurie or Diane? Okay. And then, one last question. Are all of the services you talked about on the ARC site?
They are, yes.
Great. Now, if we have people from I know we have some people from Pennsylvania logged in, and would you suggest they go to their local ARC's site to see
Yes.
what they're available?
Yes, and actually, if you go to the ARC of the U.S. website, the National ARC, it's just www.thearc.org. You can find what your local ARC is in your area. It lists all of the ARCs across the country.
Wonderful. And everyone, we can circulate that website and the ARC of Northern Virginia's website so you can see all the services that they offer. If you have any other questions, feel free to respond to the registration email that you got, or the reminder email. We can connect you with the right person. Just want to thank Diane and Laurie again for spending their Friday with us. Thank all of you for spending your Friday with us. We hope you have a great weekend, and we hope to see you at our next webinar.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.